What's up out there? We are back with some more Path of Exile, and in the last video I talked about working on my Berserker, which we are looking at right now. So I was planning on taking a little bit of time going through the Berserker. I thought, I'll go slow and not really push through it as really hard, and maybe bounce back and forth with my chieftain and build up some currency and things like that. I didn't anticipate just absolutely smoking through the campaign. So if I do a slash played, this character is under 6 hours old, 5 hours and 55 minutes. I have I have my first two ascendancies done. I have all of the campaign quests and everything done, all of that under 6 hours. This guy killed Katava in 5 hours and 20 minutes. I was absolutely floored when I blew through that. Now, keep in mind that I had a stash full of gear, and like this axe, I didn't have to do anything to craft on it or anything. It just already existed. So like basically all the gear that I had here, I had 25% increased movement speed boots, just already ready to go. Maybe I had to socket them up, link them, and change their colors or whatever. But for the most part, everything that I had was already pretty much just given to me. So I didn't have to look for anything. I didn't have to spend a lot of time crafting things, mainly just socketing, linking, and coloring things, and that's about it. And I also, because with my other build, somebody pointed out that you can use Eternal Blessing, so I popped Haste on here, which that speeds up your campaign significantly when you can move faster, on top of having faster movement speed boots, on top of game knowledge and knowing how to get through the campaign a little bit quicker and stuff like that. So I absolutely crushed the campaign. So my Cyclone Chieftain beat the campaign from league start with absolutely nothing up in 9 hours, and then I beat this in a little over 5 hours with this character with some extra gear. I'm feeling really good about this. A normal campaign run, previous to this, my normal campaign effort is like a 10 to 12 hour affair, like at league start or whatever. And then the best I've ever done with a set of twink gear is like 8 hours. But because both these builds are fairly similar with all the gear they've got and the passive trees and everything, I already just know where to put everything and what I already had a bunch of gear left over, and I've still got other gear that this character can grow into. So if I come down here, once I reach level 64, 66, I've got even better gear that I can put on here as well, even better weapons. And, level 73, I'll have a good helmet, or a decent helmet at least, and, some other castaway gear. So this was an extremely good experience. The only downside is I have no elemental resistance at all, and this is basically how I finished the campaign. Now I've been taking some other nodes on here, like these two nodes that lead up to here, so you get an extra 10% Ellie res for this armor node, or this armor wheel. So yeah, I've like compensated a little bit, and I probably get another 20% coming off of here if I wanted to. I need to work on my gear. I just don't have any amulets or rings or anything to fix some of my issues right now. Normally I'm hoarding all that kind of stuff as I go through the campaign. This time I didn't. I focused mostly on my chieftain, so I was getting fire rings and things like that. That's about all. And I need to get more harvest juice and everything. So this is where we're at. Tooltip DPS, I'm doing 32,893.5 tooltip DPS, which is really good. That's right out of the campaign. We're only level 61, and I gained 1 level after the campaign. I've done 1 map, which I died in because I don't have enough resistances, but I got enough to where I could level up the next level. So what I'm going to do from this point forward is go back to my chieftain. Like, I had no anticipation of being through the campaign so quickly, but I'm going to go back to my chieftain. I'm going to try to get up some currency. I'm going to try to get some rings and amulets and stuff like that. I'm going to hit up Delve. I think what I want to do is take this guy and do the early maps. I still have a bunch of maps to finish. I'm still at 100 of 115, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff like the tier 4 map, Vaults of Adziri, the tier 4 Twilight map, Acton's Nightmare, Hallowed Ground, stuff like that, Coward's Trial. Like, I've got all these lower level maps to do, and I'll do that through Kirok missions and things like that. So what I'll probably do is take this character here. Once I can get his resistances sorted out, he's just about ready to go through the 3rd Ascendancy trial, which I'm going to go and do Aspect of Carnage, so I get 40% more damage. And eventually I think I'm going to go over here to Gore Dancer and take Life Leech. I think that's what I'm going to do. What I did before was take Defy Pain, and I think this time around I'm just going to go up here and take Aspect of Carnage and Gore Dancer. That way I can get some life regen or life leech and supplement like my regen is not that great. Does it say leech on here somewhere? Is that under miscellaneous? Life leech is, I guess, 267. So I'll bump that up a little bit. I don't like entirely relying on leech. I prefer to have some kind of life recovery besides leech, just or life regeneration. If you're not hitting monsters and you're like this skill constantly uses life, then you're draining your life out and you have to like walk everywhere. And I don't like that. So I tried a Slayer version of Bone Shatter that I hated. It was just straight up life leech. So you couldn't really do anything unless you had, I don't know. I didn't like it. It just, I didn't care for it all that much. So this is pretty much the passive tree that I normally use. And what I typically do is come down through like life and armor or something like that. This time around, I decided to come through melee. Increased melee fizz damage. Get a little bit of life off of it, but you also get some attack speed and everything in here. So I wanted this build to be as much damage as possible. That's the whole point of the Berserker, is to just be this massive damage. Whereas with the Chieftain, I came through life and armor and came down through this way with life regen and stuff like that. It's coming through the same basic points, but I started up here instead of down here this time. And of course, you know, you come through Born to Fight, Heart of the Warrior, Warrior's Blood, that kind of thing. This time around though, what I decided to do is try to pop over to Blood Magic as early as possible. So as I leveled up, I came through here, and instead of forking off this way over to Art of the Gladiator like I normally would, I came down this way and came through and picked up Juggernaut, and then came down to Blood Magic. And I think I came up here to Resolute Technique so that I didn't have to worry about missing my shots and everything. So that was basically just looped right on through here and picked all that up in the first, 20, 30 levels or something like that. Whatever that counts out to be. And then I started working down towards this direction here. I think was the second path that I took. And I don't remember exactly where I went after that, probably over this way. I know that once I hit level 28 and was able to swap over into Cyclone, I was real close, like 9/10 of a level or something like that. I swapped over to Cyclone, and like almost every time I forgot about stuns. So as soon as I got stunned, I was like, oh, hey, leveled up, immediately took that point and came over here into Unwavering Stance, so I didn't have to deal with that. And then I think I started working on this section down here after that. So somewhere in there, I took my first Ascendancy point where you gain extra rage. And I think that's where I came into these rage nodes up here, and then built off into Bastion Breaker, Wrecking Ball, and Vengeance for these rage nodes, or Fizz, two-handed weapon, Fizz damage, and rage nodes down here. I think that's how I came into it. And then at some point I was like, all right, I can get some more damage off here with kinetic impacts and slaughter. So then after that point, I came into those. And then as I got further into the campaign, I decided it'd probably be a good time to pick up some defensive layers with Bloodless and Soul of Steel. So I start going into that. And then towards the end of the campaign, I went into Berserking, and then there's a nice life node with Constitution over here. So worked up into that. And that kind of brings us to where we're at currently. So going forward, I have a couple of thoughts on what I want to do. There are some leech nodes up in the general vicinity we're at, so I will definitely be going into Martial Experience, which gives you some leech along the way. And I don't know that I want to just take that whole wheel. I'll probably just do what I normally do and just take these 3 out here. But there is some leech nodes that are in the vicinity, like we've got some leech down here to gain more life leech, more recovery percentage, things like that. I might go into this down here. There's also, let's see, what else was I looking at? I guess it was this section over here. So this one looks really cool. You gain a little bit of dex and int. Well, yeah, 20 dex and a little bit of int to get over here. But you also get increased attack damage. We get some life leech, damage with ailments, things like that. We also get 10% increased attack speed on full life. And 1% of fizz damage, physical attack damage leached as life. And 40% increased damage, attack damage while leeching. Now there's something over here that lets you overcap leech. Oh, Volpack, that was the one. So that means you have to basically, you can't recover life other than leech, so you have to live on leech. But I think that lets you overleech too. Or there was something in here that lets you do overleech. I'll have to go revisit that. I remember that from my Bone Shatter days. So that basically you always had this standing 40% increased damage because you were always leeching. And maybe that was that might have been a Slayer skill or something like that. I can't remember. There might have been an Ascendancy, Slayer Ascendancy. Might have been something on the Slayer Ascendancy that allowed that. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to revisit that. But this build is basically built on taking damage. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, I don't have any regen at the moment. Normally, I would come over here and pick up Hardy and stuff like that. And I would need to revisit some of this because there is regen on like Warrior's Blood. I mean, I can't get around taking that node, but I guess I haven't taken any of the life regen at this point. We're not getting any there. So I was kind of thinking about coming over into this. I was also considering dropping Resolute Technique. I'm not quite sold on this one yet. I'm right here for this, for Eagle Eye, with all the accuracy. If we come over here and pick up this leech, we're much in the neighborhood of Weathered Hunter, which gives you a bunch more accuracy and stuff like that. And then we can just pop right on over here to Precise Technique so that we get 40% more increased attack damage if accuracy is higher than max life. So I would need to keep my accuracy up really high. It's going to use up a lot more points, but that would bring up a lot more damage as well. So I'm kind of considering that. Those are some really good options in there. I've also somewhat considered, because we're in the same vein or in the same area for all these things, I've considered dropping Blood Magic on this one to allow myself to go in and start using mana. I'm not totally sold on using Blood Magic for this build. I'm not quite there yet on it, and I'm weighing options. Like, we still got 30 points I can put into stuff, so I've got some room to play. But that would mean I'd have to take Cannibalistic Rite. We'd have to pick up Spirit of War. We'd probably have to pick up Champion of the Cause to increase all the reservation efficiency of skills. So there's like 9 points, probably 10 points taken up. Reduced mana cost of skills, things like that. Mana reservation efficiency. Like, we'd have to do all of that to accommodate things. But that would allow me to take Determination, some other things, maybe probably not Vitality, depending on whether I go into Vol Pact or not. I might tinker with this one and see what I can do. Life Leech wouldn't be the worst thing. I don't like it. I do like having the ability to regenerate, but that gets you around those red ring monsters that want to take everything away, take your life away and bleed you down and stop your regen. It removes that problem. I think there's an issue with the Maven. I think there's at least 1 or 2 different monsters where they shut your life regen off. So having total life leech, I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. I hate running this as leech only, but it wouldn't necessarily be the absolute worst option either because of what I just said. That would get around certain issues, and it's certainly something that we could definitely just put the point into this, fight those monsters, take the point out, and then get some life regen back. Although, like, we're not getting a ton of life regen off of here. It's only 89. That's definitely not going to cover a whole lot. And then if we go into using mana, I may have to put in... oh, what's that called? Oh God. How do I even search for it? Because I can't even remember what it's called. The support gem, where's it at? Life Tap. I couldn't think of the name of it. I may have to use Life Tap on Cyclone to get it to go over there and get outside of my reservation efficiency. But that also allows me to just reserve everything fully. So while I have an archetype for this build, I've been considering changes that I can make. Like, I can get 1.7 million damage out of this build with the Ascendancy, with Aspect of Carnage, with this basically set up everything the way it is. I don't know if I'm going to go into Frenzy Charges or not. I probably should, but I'm not entirely sure that I want to at this point. Like, there's other options I might weigh. I may try to come over here to Precise Technique. I might POB this out and see how it goes, and then try to chart things out, like actually plan. I don't usually plan things, but when I was sitting here putting points into it and I started seeing like the way they've changed this Ascendancy to give you Gore Dancer with this Life Leech, it might be worth the effort of going through and picking up Gladiator's Perseverance and Volpact, and even coming over to Precise Technique and picking up some of this other stuff. But that means giving up some of the things that I've picked already to move over into these. So I'm not entirely sure, but I am intrigued to see where this goes. And I will say that Rage is a good key aspect of this, and this plus 10 to max Rage, I'm going to have to come up here anyway. And I'm going to come over here to Vengeance because you get every Rage grants armor. So those are as far as I'm concerned, they're non-negotiable. And that puts you right next to Resolute Technique and Blood Magic. So that means I can save nodes for all the mana, like 10 mana node or 10 nodes to ease up on mana reservation. That's a lot of nodes to take where I could be going over here into damage and accuracy and things like that. So I don't know. I'm going to tinker around with this for a little bit, but that's where I've got this build. Absolutely smoke the campaign. And you can really feel the damage difference on this. I think POB says I'm getting like 78,000 DPS at this moment, where I think my chieftain was at this point in time was what, 48,000 or something like that. Like, I've made some significant strides on this one. So what I'll probably do is cannibalize some of the gear that I've got off my chieftain, namely the axe probably, and bring it over. The other thing too on this build as well is I've got Cyclone infused channeling, which I've got on, usually run on this, but I've also been able to run brutality. I do not care about fizz or chaos damage on this at all. So the axe that I'm going to do, or the axe that I'm going to use or focus on, is going to be a purely fizz-based axe. So I think the axe that's sitting on my chieftain is a pure fizz axe, so I might swap that over to here. It's going to drop that build's damage a little bit, but I want to focus that one more on elemental damage and stuff like that. So with brutality and I'm running fortify, and again, that's another thing. I could also put points into fortify. We're right here for it. So I could keep this, or I could move that. I'm not entirely sold on either one necessarily at this point, but the big news is smoke the campaign. I've got some really good options, and I want to make this one do as much damage as possible. So I've got some options and I've got some ideas. But anyway, I thought I would share on this. I was really happy. I thought I was going to spend the weekend, a couple hours here, a couple hours there, and slowly make my way through the campaign. I did not anticipate just smoking the campaign like I did yesterday. I sat down. Every time I'd sat down and have a session, I'd play for a couple hours, and I was like, man, I got like this massive amount of progress. And there are times where you kind of get burned out on it. I was so energized of playing that I just kept steamrolling through it. So yeah, great time, and the build is doing really well. I'm very pleased with it. I will innovate with this one a little bit, tinker with some things and see what I can do with it. But that is going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.